Let's talk about quiet quitting. Widespread dissatisfaction at the workplace. An idea spreading so fast virally on social media that it has become a global phenomenon. Many polls suggest quiet quitters already make up 50% of the US workforce, and the issue will get worse. Is it really hurting American companies and our entire economy? Is there another choice? I worked in resource management for years. Here's my opinion. Like everything else, there are two sides to this story. Employees insist they are finally setting boundaries. They're tired of wage theft and being forced to pick up the slack from their coworkers who have checked out. They want flexibility, and they're meeting their employee contract requirements, just no more, no less. And employers are telling them, if you're quiet quitting, you won't be here long. You're ruining your career. You'll be sorry because this means you're also quitting on life. And by silencing your own voice in an organization, you may be depriving yourself of the opportunity to change that organization. So, a bit of truth on both sides. But what next? Telling the world that Americans are quiet quitting isn't helping. When those two words are combined, they do more damage and divide us even further. With so much division already rampant throughout our country, our next move is turning employees against employers. Really? What are we? Mindless sheep? Mainstream media is convinced the only way to get our attention is running angertainment 24/7 on every channel. What about you? Are you one of the millions that worked from home or worse, held a position that required you to work with the public during the pandemic and now want a more flexible job? Have you cut back on hours trying to balance work and home life? Are you politely refusing to pick up the slack for a coworker? Or are you so discouraged and angry by stories of discrimination and horrible company morale that you've joined the quiet quitters? And if you have, are you doing anything to change your circumstances? Let's get this straight right from the start. Quiet quitting is not new. In the early 90s, consultants came up with lots of creative names: burnout, lost productivity, slacker, worker disengagement, or poor time management. Everything was the employee's fault. Rarely, if ever, did you hear a CEO or an owner tell his employees, "This is all my fault." It just didn't happen, and that hasn't changed either. But companies love to talk about the subject. They craft memos explaining the great time and expense of hiring consultants to address their employees' lack of engagement and productivity, never thinking about how employees feel. The slap in the face is the insinuation that the employees are doing something wrong, and senior management must spend huge amounts of money, all in the name of correcting their bad behavior. They even go so far as to call it an employee benefit. But it's all smoke and mirrors to avoid admitting the real problem is hiding in the culture. And owners haven't figured out a way to teach their managers how to lead with intention and empathy. And this is where it gets personal. At our breaking point, we all ask ourselves the same question: how is one person going to change anything? I felt the same way, and even as a seasoned resource manager, I was unable to change the minds of senior management. I gave up and walked away from an industry I loved working in. Unfortunately, my quitting made me feel worse. Okay, if you're still listening, you're probably asking, you gave up, so why should we keep reading or listening? All I can say is that giving up never made me feel better. Years have passed since I left the workforce, and I am still haunted with guilt. I think I'm writing this in an effort to do the right thing, to be brave, and risk the backlash. But admittedly, it is discouraging. After so many years, why hasn't there been a change? I'm sure organizational behavior experts can cite a dozen reasons, but my guess is that it all comes down to power and money. Employers have it, and employees want it. And senior executives have wrongly decided making the needed changes equates to them giving up both. Do you blame them? Isn't that what you want? Power and a big bonus? I also think over many, many years, employers created hot button issues to keep employees in their place. They combine politics, race, gender, and pay scale issues with words like union organization, socialism, left wing and liberal radicalism, and even the Me Too movement, knowing they trigger highly charged emotional responses, and not in a good way. So, is this a zero sum game? For your boss to gain more power and more money, it means you must endure wage theft by working more hours for the same pay, picking up the slack for coworkers, and going above and beyond your duties and responsibilities? Is there a way to stop this? How about if we stop studying and talking about quiet quitting and do something? So, please think about how you feel, and then if you're curious about what I think, watch my next video. Remember, the opposite of a zero sum game is a win win situation.